Hi there, my name is Scott Phillips. I'm the president and founder of StarFish Medical. This is another video in the series of areas where you can avoid issues in your product development, help you save money. One area we sometimes find is the lack of technology maturity. This is actually less common than lack of adequate clinical input or lack of testing or some of the other ones I've highlighted in previous videos, but it does come up once in a while. And this would show itself in one of those nagging little things that you haven't quite addressed early, but you somehow convince yourself that you can resolve it later. And you're actually just fooling yourself. And if you have a more formal gate at that conceptual development stage, you will save yourself a lot of trouble. And I'll talk you through a little bit of how you might go about doing that. One example that we saw was a fluidics analytical company measuring a body fluid. And in the step from their working laboratory prototype to a microfluidic-based clinical device, they actually had to change the form of the device quite significantly, and actually overlooked the fact that, in fact, by changing the shapes of the chambers and so on, it actually changed the function of the device sufficiently that it became a big problem later on. In another case, we had an ophthalmic sensing application, and it had a little molded tip on the end of it. And it was actually very important to make those tips very repeatable, and the company had spent some energy on that. But one thing they failed to consider is that how those tips were placed on the end of the device actually caused a lot of variability in the measurement. And had there been a very clear requirement that the measurement be repeatable from one placement to the next, and had they done enough testing, they would have surfaced this issue in time to do something about it. As it was, they spent a lot of money, developed the product, got it through regulatory, launched and everything, and then had to ultimately withdraw the product and cause themselves a lot of pain. So how would you actually go about doing such a thing? On our website, there is a checklist you can download. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it asks you certain things like, what are the biggest technical risks? How could this device fail to work as you anticipate? And how can you measure to show that you can adequately address those things? In terms of accuracy, in terms of repeatability, in terms of tolerances, in terms of manufacturability, even possibly in terms of how different operators interact with your device. And how can you set up some sort of a way of demonstrating those biggest, most critical risks that you can demonstrate that you've addressed them. And probably the best mechanism for that is you actually get a room of experts together and you get them all to agree. Yes, we agree you have identified the most critical risks. Yes, we agree that you have adequately tested those risks, and we agree, and we'll put our name down to say that you have adequately addressed these things, so we don't believe they will be the critical factors that prevent this thing from being successful. And if you could convince a room full of people that you respect as experts, then you're much better off than 95% of most companies that are setting out to develop products. As I mentioned, on our website, there is a form you can download. It's called the Product Development Sanity Check, and it has roughly 50 questions on it that you can ask and address the questions of whether you've identified the critical risks and mitigated them. And if you'd like any further amplification, or if you're interested in just talking to us and getting our perspective on your challenges, we'd be more than happy to talk to you and help you understand your product development better. Thanks again.